Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really pretty pattern. It's 2 stitches but it's only a 1 row repeat and it's really easy. This is a neck warmer that I'm going to make. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and then I'm going to sew the edges together, and that'll be nice and wide. It'll be nice and scrunchy in, and I can put it around my neck and keep me warm. Now the yarn that I'm using for this is this butterfly hobby yarn, and my ball's a bit of a pickly mess. I'll need to get my ball winder out and wind the rest of this up. But this one, the number of this one is colour 13. I can't remember what it is. I would need to look it up. But it's number 13 and it's Hobby Butterfly. It's really pretty. It's really easy. It's a simple, beautiful little pattern and I'm going to show you how to do it. Now the stitch count for this is 3. You need an even set of numbers of 3. So that's all you need to do with this. Sets of 3, make your chain as long as you like. There is no set size for this. If you want to make a wrap, then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I've actually got 22 because there's 3 stitches that are here on this chain as well. So I've got an even number. And for this neck warmer, I've got 22. If you want to make it wider for a wrap, you could make it 30. If you want to do it for a blanket, make it as many sets of 3 as you want it to be. It's really pretty. So I've got my yarn and I'm going to do a slip knot. Now if you can't do a slip knot, put your hook down and then just tie your yarn on like this. Tie your yarn on. Give yourself a little bit of a tail just in case you've miscounted your stitches and you need to add one. If you've got too many stitches, you just pick them out when you get to the end. So I'm going to do my chain and I'm going to do it in sets of 3. 1, 2, 3. So I've got my chain done, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the 4th stitch in my chain. Don't count the loop on the hook. Count 1, 2, 3 and 4 into the 4th stitch. Yarn over and we're going to do a V stitch. Now if you're in the USA, these are double crochets for you, and if you're in the UK, it's a treble crochet. It's the same stitch, it's just got a different name. So into that 4th stitch we're going to put 1 treble crochet, 1 chain and 1 treble crochet into the same stitch. We're making a V stitch in there, and we've got our little chain on the end. That chain on the end counts as a treble crochet. You're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and into the next stitch we're going to make a treble cluster. We're going to put 3 treble crochets into the 1 stitch, and if you're in the USA, that's 3 double crochets into the same stitch. So count 1, 2, we're going to skip 2 and put 3 stitches into this one. That's 1, make a little cluster, 2 and 3, skip 2 and then do the V stitch again. So 1 treble crochet, 1 chain and 1 treble crochet. Skip 2, 1, 2 and do the cluster. That's 3 treble crochets into the same stitch. 1, 2 and 3, all into the same stitch. Skip 2 and do the V stitch. So that's 1 chain 1 and 1 treble crochet. And these are double crochets if you're in the USA or another country. Now I'm using a thinner yarn for this, and you'll do that all the way to the end. Skip 2 and do your cluster. skip 2, do my V-stitch in there, treble crochet, skip 2, and we're going to do, now it doesn't matter if you finish on a treble cluster or a V-stitch, it doesn't matter. Put 1, 2 and 3, so we're on a cluster, and we're going to skip 2. I've got 1, 2, and into the very last stitch I'm going to put a treble crochet into my very last stitch, and this is what you've got. So it doesn't matter, that's a V-stitch, and that chain is a treble crochet. So it doesn't matter if you finish on a V-stitch or a cluster, doesn't matter. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and turn. Now this is your cluster, 1, 2, 3 stitches. Into the middle stitch above this middle post you're going to put a V-stitch. So we're going to put that V-stitch on top of the clusters, and all the V-stitches will get a cluster. So you'll see that in a minute. So you're going to go into the second stitch in that cluster and put a V-stitch in. That's 1, chain 1 and 1 more. Now into the V-stitch, into the middle of the V-stitch, you're going to put that cluster. So you're skipping 2 stitches and doing the cluster, 1, 2 and 3. Over to the cluster, so you're going to skip 2 stitches and into the next one do the V-stitch. 1, 1 chain and 1. Skip 2 and you're in the middle of the V-stitch. Put your cluster in, and that's what you're going to do for each of these rows. If you've got a V-stitch, you'll put a cluster in, and in the middle of the cluster you'll put a V-stitch. So we're skipping 2 stitches and doing the V-stitch in the middle of that cluster, in the top stitch. Chain 1 and 1 treble crochet, and these are double crochets if you're in the USA. So skip 2 or just jump over to the V-stitch, put your cluster in, 1, 2 and 3, over to the cluster, into the middle stitch of the cluster and do the V-stitch. Over to the V-stitch, put a cluster. You do that all the way along, and over to my last V-stitch, and I'm going to put a cluster in. That's 3 treble crochets, and that's 3 double crochets if you're in the USA. Now on this little chain at the end I'm going to count 1, 2 and 3, and I'm going to put a treble crochet, 1 treble crochet at the end. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and turn, and we start with a cluster. So you're going to skip 1, 2, so into that middle stitch, into the top of the middle stitch you'll put a V-stitch, and in the V-stitch you'll put a cluster, and that's what you do for each row. So into the, that's a cluster, so it gets a V-stitch. Straight over to the V-stitch and do a cluster, 1, 2 and 3. Skip 2 and do a V-stitch. So it's V-stitch, cluster, V-stitch, cluster, or cluster, V-stitch, cluster, V-stitch. So a cluster into that V-stitch, and then into this one we're doing a V-stitch into the cluster. and that one I'll get a cluster, and that's what you do for every row, and make it as big as you need it. And this is what you get. Now it looks slightly different because it's different yarn. That's a double knitting yarn. Now I'll go back and show you this bigger one. Now this butterfly yarn was done with a 3.5 UK hook. I did this one with a 3.5, a little 3.5 crochet hook, and that gave me much smaller stitches. And this is a double knitting yarn, and you can see the difference. This is a 3.5 hook, and this one is a 4.5 hook. The larger the hook, the lacier it looks. I will admit I like it better done in the smaller hook, and that is what it looks like in the smaller hook. It's really pretty. And that's all you do, and you'll just finish your row. Your ends are nice and straight and neat, so you don't need a border. If you do want to put a border on, you can put some treble crochets, little clusters. Where the V stitches are, I would do a cluster, a double crochet. You can do a cluster, a double crochet and a cluster. Put the clusters in where the V stitches are if you want a border on it, but I think it's nice and straight the way it is, and it's really pretty. Look at that in different yarns. That's it with the smaller hook. It's much prettier with a smaller hook. Once you finish this off, I'll finish that ball. I'm going to stitch it together, and it'll make me a nice neck warmer. And it's the same pattern on each side, and it's a really pretty easy pattern. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you click on the bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.